Real quick is the W stands for winning. Are we winning before and after? So usually on this, hey, we're not winning, we're only at 60%. H stands for harmony. In other words, are we all in alignment? Okay, because disharmony is the biggest cause of failure. And there's a lot of infighting or people they're not on board. That causes a lot of problems. A is for attitude. Okay? And if they're having problems, sometimes the attitude in the boardroom with individuals is they're blaming each other, they're upset, they're negative, versus a positive, aggressive attitude to achieve these. T is telling the truth. This is very key because a lot of companies have been fudging on the numbers, fudging on everything else, and they're not credible because they're not telling the truth. And then R stands for doing the right things. It could be having the right strategy, the right people in the right places, the right percentage of effectiveness, the right ethics, whatever it is. And board members love this because they can skim this internally. They don't have to go through all of the details because this is what they're looking at when they're sitting there watching people perform. So the right things are and the right results, obviously. And then so what we do is we take this as kind of what I call, not a touchy-feely, but the intangibles that we should all consider before we move to the 5. And the 5 are the 5 key objectives that you're going to perform in the next 90 days. So we make the next 90 days equal to a year. So usually we give them something they have to stretch for, but let's get them focused on a year. And now those 5 are, the one thing that makes it different is the first objective is we say the board has to rehire the CEO in 2 weeks. And then the CEO has the option, if he or she is rehired, to rehire these people. Okay? But it's going to be difficult for the CEO to justify rehiring the operations person if the operations person is 30% competent going down for this strategy. You may have to reassign or get somebody else. Then the board has to decide in 2 weeks, this is their biggest function, whether to rehire the CEO or not. If you don't rehire the CEO, obviously they got to step in, take it over to the search, do whatever it is. Now if they do hire the CEO, we expect them to be 100% committed to the CEO. So if there are 10 board members and 8 of them say, hey, we think the CEO can do it, we didn't give them enough resources last year, and we're going to be 100% committed to that. We will suggest that the 2 board members who can't get on board and be 100% committed leave. Okay? So this first step of the rehire, committing everybody is huge, and most consulting assignments don't have this, and you just have a slight incremental return of people that are defensive because they're the ones that created the problem. So in 2 weeks, they'll call me and say the decision they made, and they may have to get rid of some people, they may have to change their thinking. So what we want is 100% commitment by everybody that's left. And we still have some important things to do. Then the other 4 objectives are typical, like revenue, profitability, capital, compliance, whatever it is. And then there's specific, steps, time frames, and then an ultimate objective, a metric that has to be accomplished in 90 days. So we get the whole team to sign. So they sign off on this, and then I'll come back in 90 days, and there'll be 10% fewer people, okay? And they'll be all excited because they hit 90% of those 5 objectives in 90 days. So if you take this and you apply it to the criteria, it's all like 2-hour interviews, maybe 2 meetings, so we can't charge that much money, so it's very cost effective when you think about what's required. Number 2, we've gotten the results. Okay. Number 3, it's fast. Okay. Number 4, it's a simple approach because people can understand it. And number 5, what it does, it hits all of the results and it's people positive because the board members, those that are left, they're the ones that are doing it. So it's not consultant dependent. Consultant has been the catalyst. So we've done this for maybe 10 or so different companies, ranging from banks, insurance companies, nonprofits, government entities, because this isn't rocket science. So what we're telling a lot of our clients that are looking at consulting assignments is to use that criteria we just described, and then if they like, this is probably the fastest way to get it done with an investor, a board, and an executive team to actually get the results.
Excellent. Larry, that was great.
Oh, thank you.
Again, it just goes straight for the heart of the matter, it sounds like.
Right.
And again, and I've been on the receiving end of
Both
some
ends.
consultants.
Yeah.
And recognizing that sometimes they don't have experience in a specific industry, yet they're trying to enforce
Yes.
their will on you when you
Yeah,
know
their
it
will, yes.
won't, it just causes a lot of internal confusion, resentment, and sometimes the pushback is justifiable if the consultant really doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, one of the things that I use, because I've done this we've done it for Security Pacific B of A when we put organization units together. Real complex jet leasing, collateralized back mortgages and everything else. And I go in and I tell them, we're churches. And I said, hey, I don't know your business.
Sure.
You guys know your business, but I know performance. Okay? So I don't even want to get involved in your business. Now, what a lot of consultants do, and I know this because we have these large assignments, is a board member will say, well, you don't really understand our business. So they'll say, well, we'll be happy to understand your business. So they'll bring in 2 more MBAs to do a further analysis. But even those MBAs and partners, they will never totally understand your business. So I don't even try to attempt to understand their business. Then I don't get into those discussions. But I do understand when you're not hitting the objectives, when you have a bad attitude, when you're not doing the right things. That's obvious. And so I'm a catalyst that doesn't have to defend what I'm doing.
Sure.
You know, they have to step up and raise the level of their game, and they own this, not me. I'm just the catalyst.
That is the best system I think I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
And it is all based on the company's own projections, their own strategy, their own desired results. And
Yes.
you're really helping them do what they say they want to do.
Yes.
And it also brings out the folks that aren't really on board.
Right.
And that are causing a lot of the drag on the company. And so it's just a fantastic model and appreciate it very much. Any final thoughts that you might have about what you've done so far with your model?
Well, I think because I've worked with the boards, and the boards have kind of changed my thinking, because before they used to be an ornament.
Sure.
Okay, and they were kind of a figurehead, a legal requirement. But since Sarbanes-Oxley and all of the Enron scandals, the boards are being held liable. So now the boards are really getting into this, but they don't have the time or expertise to go that deep. So they need something like this in order to oversee what they're doing. And the management teams now are changing on the average of every 3 to 5 years. So the boards basically are there, most of the board members are there, 15 years or more, and they have all of the liability and accountability. So they're very interested in this, because this is a way for them to have that oversight without having to get into all the details. Okay, and so they're very excited. So are the investors, because the investors feel frustrated, like the board members, and then the executives feel frustrated because they feel disconnected from everybody. They're being pressured. This is a way of making sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing in their own roles.
And it builds the team without enforcing anything. It's just looking
Yes.
at the results, and it builds cohesion, it looks like.
Yeah, and everybody knows how everybody else is performing. We call this part like game films. In a football game, you watch the films, the guard's limping a little bit. Everybody in an organization knows who is not pulling their weight, who has a bad attitude. And oftentimes, it's not really incompetent. It's some really competent people that may not have the right attitude. They may be out of harmony that's causing the problem. So often when you go through this process, they realize that I didn't realize that person was a total drag on the organization, because they seemed like they were in fault, but they weren't.
Just breathing, showing up.
Yes, so this cleans it out. And also the other part, real quick, is you have to do all of these things simultaneously.
Sure.
Like your football team, you don't just do the passing, you gotta have the guards, you gotta have everything done simultaneously, but it doesn't have to be in such detail that it takes a year to do the quarterback. Next year we're gonna do the guards, next year we're gonna do the ends. We can do it all in 90 days.
And the simplicity is probably one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, and it's simple, because I'm simple. I've hired a lot of MBAs, and I dealt with lawyers and so forth, people much smarter than I am. But this is the model that you go out and have to play and win.
Exactly. Well, Larry, thanks so much
My
for
pleasure.
your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
if you have any further questions, please give us a call at 949-788-2998, or check out our website at www.bottomlineresultscorp.com. Thank you.